Greetings. My name is Al-Yassin, and this is actually the first podcast recording of a project that I'm starting called Zion. The quest of which is basically, trying to achieve a true unity between peoples of all different faiths, religions, and spiritual backgrounds, and in a way that's sort of much stronger than just merely coexisting. I think there's a space for a unity that's stronger than just allyship. And to that end, I've got with me virtually Salman Sheikh, who has been. How are you, Salman, by the way?
Hey, brother, how are you? It's great to be here with you, and it's an honor and privilege to reconnect with you after a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's like before COVID hit, we haven't done one of these. But yeah, just for anyone who's listening, who doesn't know, Salman has been a prolific and he's a veteran of this kind of work. He's been making videos and tutorials and interviews, geared towards bringing people together of different faiths. And so, what I want to do, Salman, is I want to sort of make a video, almost a biography of you, of who is
Yes.
Salman Sheikh. Just I want people to know who you are and the hard work you've been doing online and behind the scenes, to bring people together. Is that okay?
Yes, of course, of course.
Good. Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so to get started, my name is Salman Sheikh. I come from a Pakistani American background.
Yeah.
I came to America at the age of 5 years old. And coming to this country, I always had a sense of knowing that there was something else that existed beyond our normal day-to-day reality that we've been taught about.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had a longing for the unknown. So growing up, I was always looking into subjects like spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
Sufism, Freemasonry. I was looking into all different things out there because I had a longing for the unknown.
Sure.
And one of my desires was to bring humanity together based on the aspect of the Charter of Medina by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which
Sure.
is the oldest living document which
Mm-hmm.
gives rights to all people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is based on the Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 62, where it says in the Quran that God doesn't care if you're a Jew, Christian, or Muslim. He only
Mm-hmm.
cares if you're an upright human being, a righteous human being, and that's what will help you. So throughout
Excellent.
my life, I always saw oneness in everything, in all peoples and places, even though I
Mm-hmm.
saw the darkness of humanity, the darkness of beings and organizations, and then eventually even going through Freemasonry and leaving
Mm-hmm.
Freemasonry. So I tried my best in my life to be charitable, to
Mm-hmm.
be giving, to be honest, because in this human life, life is beautiful, but it's a short journey.
Mm-hmm.
We're only here for a short time, and I tell people just try your best, love everyone, and do the right thing with the time that you've been given, and that's it. That's and everything else, it moves on as you go from this life to the next.
Great words, and that's a great intro. And it brings us to our first topic, I suppose. So, ancestry. So, why don't we start off with let's go back to the beginning of the story. And why don't you
Yeah,
start off? Where were you born exactly?
I was born in Pakistan in the
Hmm.
Islamabad area, in the Rawalpindi Islamabad area.
Okay.
My ancestry comes from a big variety of sources.
Hmm.
I have Alaskan Siberian Native, which is Native
Actually,
American.
just to preface what you're about to say, for anyone listening, you actually did one of those DNA ancestry tests. So this is how you know what you're about to say. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yep. So could
So
you tell us about that? Yep. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So when I was in 2016,
Hmm.
I did a DNA test, and in the DNA test, I found out I had
Hmm.
Australian Aboriginal, I had Alaskan Siberian Native, both
Hmm.
groups which are part of the indigenous peoples, First
Hmm.
Nations of the world.
Yeah.
I had Indian, of course, with Pakistan being a
Hmm.
part of India, that was expected.
Yeah.
I had Persian, small remnants of Chinese, Mongolian, Japanese, which would
Hmm.
make sense because of the Genghis Khan
The
and the
Mongol.
Mongols
Yeah.
were going
Hmm.
all over, and of
Yeah.
course that could naturally happen. So
Yes. Yes.
with my ancestry, I felt a longing always to
Hmm.
the indigenous peoples, and
Yeah.
Um, I have a more right to be in America than some of the racists who tell me to go back where I came from.
I agree with you. It's just, I mean, the Mongol and Persian and even Arabian, if you have that, that's understandable. But I think what's really interesting is Native American, Pakistani with Native American DNA, or even,
Yes.
how do you think, what's your theory? How do you think that got into you, into your DNA?
Well, I mean, it could be a variety of reasons, right? Sometimes
Hmm.
when we look at the world seems like a big place, but
Yeah,
at the same time, the world is a really small place.
yeah.
So if, let's say, if I go to Alaska, which is
Hmm.
an American state, I have
Hmm.
Alaskan Siberian native DNA.
Hmm.
That's why if you look at many of the indigenous people of North and South America
They
who
look
have
like,
been
yeah.
given the
Mhm.
colonized term of, let's say, Latino or Hispanic, they're
Yeah.
not Latinos or Hispanics.
Uh-huh.
That was a name given to them by the colonizers.
Yeah.
Those people are the indigenous people of North and South America.
Yeah.
That's why if you have a Pakistani person that
Hmm.
stands next to an indigenous North and South American person,
Yeah.
you can't tell the difference. I
I,
mean,
yeah. Mhm.
we have so many similarities of being indigenous peoples.
I agree with you. And I think the theory is that a long time ago, they crossed over. There was a sort of a land bridge between Alaska and Asia, and they crossed over. But there might have been other routes as well, apparently, into America. But that's really interesting to know. And what about? Can you tell us a little bit about your parents? Just whatever you
Uh,
want.
yeah, sure, sure. My parents, I'm grateful for them. They worked hard to give me a good life, and
Hmm.
in their point of view,
Yeah.
bringing me to America, me and my family and siblings at a young age,
Hmm.
their objective was to give us a better life,
Yeah.
a chance at a better opportunity.
Hmm.
So I'm grateful for them that they all the sacrifices they made for me and my
Hmm.
siblings, that we're here today because of our parents and the sacrifices they made. So I'm
Hmm.
thankful to them.
And what age did your parents bring you from Pakistan to USA, to the US?
I was 5 years old.
And what was that like, that transition? What was that? Can you describe what that was like for you as a kid, a 5-year-old kid?
I mean, it was a big culture shock because keep in mind, the first 7 years of a child,
Uh-huh.
he or she is still psychologically and spiritually and mentally and
Hmm.
emotionally developing
Yeah.
until the age of 7.
Hmm.
So for me to be in an Eastern environment, Eastern culture at the near completion of 7 years old,
Hmm.
and then at 5, I'm just taken out and put somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a big culture shock for me.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
I kind of get that because I was born in the Middle East, but my parents brought us to the UK. So I had my first birthday in Scotland, and then we moved to Northern Ireland, where I am now, and that's all I've known. So, but because I look different, so I get what that feels like, just always looking and feeling different. But I think you had that, but also you had the culture shock, having lived 5 years in Pakistan, then moving here. So that must have been, that would have been difficult, I think, I suppose.
it's difficult, brother. I'm still trying to adjust,
Yeah,
even in
that's
my
a
adult
thing.
life.
You don't get over it. That's a thing. I still haven't got over it. Like, I'm 36 now, and I haven't got over that kind of just knowing you're just completely different from the beginning. It takes time.
Exactly, because the Western world is a lawless,
Hmm.
anarchist, satanic society, and I'm a man of God, and
Hmm.
I always try to be a light to the people here and bridge people together. But
Hmm.
this is a place which is not for godly or spiritual people. That's why I always felt out of place here.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I mean, were you kind of spiritually inclined since you were, young, 5 years old? Were you already kind of interested in spirituality and divinity and God, like in a rudimentary way?
Yeah, definitely, because this kind of love for humanity and God and the
Hmm.
universe and each other, not everyone has that. Either you have it within
Yeah.
you since the
Hmm.
beginning or you don't.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I mean, because I feel quite similar to you in that, I remember being, very, very young and starting to ask these questions to my dad. That's what I was interested in before I even could read or write. So I agree with you. I think some people are just, that's what they're into, and but so I get what you're talking about.
Yes.
Um, That's really interesting. Let's move on to the next slide here. And that is, it's been a big part of, your content, though. You're laughing because it's a controversial subject for both of us. But look,
Yes.
for anyone who's listening, that's how me and Salman met. We met through Freemasonry,
Yep. Yep.
Um, and I suppose that's the one good that's one of the quote unquote good things about it is that it was sort of like a big family. And I remember seeing, you were out there talking about Islam and Freemasonry, and I was like, wow, there's no one else talking about this, and that's how I connected with you.
Yes.
But what I'll do is I'll give the mic to you, and can you just tell us your story in and out of Freemasonry if you can?
Yes, my brother. So, starting in the beginning, I recount my Masonic journey beginning in 2016 at the age of 23.
Hmm.
And it emphasized the personal and spiritual significance of my initiation and membership since I always had a longing for the unknown.
Yeah.
Early curiosity about life's deeper questions and a high school introduction to Freemasonry led me to eventually seek membership.
Hmm.
My path to joining was traditional, marked by personal vetting rather than the more open recruitment practices or schemes of today,
Hmm.
highlighting the importance of character and spirituality in my acceptance into the brotherhood.
Hmm.
I fondly recall the diversity and unity within the Freemason community,
Hmm.
especially the interfaith harmony that resonated with my Islamic beliefs.
Hmm.
However, over time, disillusionment set in as I noticed discrepancies between members'
Yes.
public
Yes.
personas and
Uh,
their private behaviors.
yeah.
Alongside personal challenges attributed to my involvement in Freemasonry, I started having health issues, financial issues, which comes when the occult Masonic egregore enters into your life, which many
Hmm.
people will dare not talk about.
Yeah.
Despite initial enthusiasm and active participation, including attending meetings, holding officer roles,
Hmm.
and contributing to Masonic publications, I felt a lack of spiritual fulfillment and growth, leading to a reevaluation of my involvement and the ultimate decision to focus on other spiritual interests moving forward.
Hmm.
My journey through Freemasonry and my eventual departure highlight a deeply personal and evolving relationship with the organization,
Hmm.
its members, and its teachings. My experience reflects a search for belonging, understanding, and spiritual growth
Hmm.
that many people can relate to, regardless of the specific context. My story sheds light on the complexities of fraternal organizations, including the challenges of navigating interpersonal dynamics, organizational politics, and the alignment or misalignment of personal values with those of the group. My story also speaks to broader themes of identity, community, and the search for meaning in life.
Hmm.
The decision to leave an organization, especially after investing time, energy, and emotion into it, is never easy. My narrative illustrates the courage it takes to stand up for one's belief and values, even in the face of opposition or indifference. My efforts to effect change within Freemasonry and my eventual realization that my path lay elsewhere highlight a journey of self discovery and integrity. My return to Islam and Sufism as focal points for my spiritual and philosophical explorations suggest a coming home to myself, to values and practices that resonate more deeply with my personal beliefs and experiences. This transition seems to represent not just a departure from Freemasonry, but an embrace of a broader, more inclusive understanding of spirituality
Yes.
and
Yes.
community.
Exactly.
My story is a powerful reminder that growth often involves difficult choices and letting go of what no longer serves us. It's about finding our way back to what truly matters, even if that journey takes us through unexpected places. My experiences underscores the importance of staying true to oneself and being open to the lessons of each phase of life that it brings. And as I go into the conclusion of this, my journey through Freemasonry and its eventual disillusionment
Hmm.
highlights the quest for spiritual and philosophical fulfillment that
Hmm.
ultimately led me back to Islam and Sufism. Despite initially seeking camaraderie and deeper knowledge within the
Hmm.
Masonic Brotherhood, I encountered challenges such as exclusionary behavior, organizational politics, racism, and a
Hmm.
mismatch between
Hmm.
the fraternity's teaching and my
Yeah.
personal values. My efforts to instigate change within the organization were met with resistance, of course, as I was the only one talking about Islam and Masonry, leading me to sever ties and publicly share my experience, prompting some change or reform. This experience reaffirmed my commitment to exploring spirituality and philosophy through Islam and Sufism, marking a return to my roots and a rejection of institutionalized brotherhood for a more authentic connection with my faith and values. There are good Masons too, don't get me wrong, but that's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's rarely there.
Yes.
The young people of today are not going to tolerate any institution like Freemasonry today, full of bigoted and racist individuals. Freemasonry of today is full of liars, two-faced traitors, deceivers, and backstabbers. Any organization whose allegory story is based on murder and betrayal from within your own is not any organization I encourage anyone to be a part of. Also, the organization is infiltrated and compromised by individuals whose true allegiances lay elsewhere, but use Freemasonry as a cover and shield. Freemasonry also brings an occult egregore in your life, which declines you mentally, physically, financially, medical issues, hard to sleep, and that curse-like energy affects your family members also. It's not offering you anything special or exclusive, as esoteric Masonic lessons are already taught by many systems, religions, and paths which predate Freemasonry. Also, you are practically paying for friends through your membership, as I noticed, that they all disappear once you exit, even with good standing, as I resigned with good standing. The young generation of today see through all of this, and that's why Freemasonry as an organization will be defunct or severely limited by the 2030s decade. I resigned in good standing from Freemasonry in June 2023 after being a member for 8 years from January 2016 to June 2023.
That was, yes, no, that was very well said. Very well said indeed. Very eloquent. And yeah, I know that you had a hard time because you climbed the ranks pretty quickly and you went pretty high in the order, as I remember, and you did a lot of work for them. And basically that got thrown in your face through racism and bigotry, as you mentioned, and basically pushed you out of it. And I mean, I agree. I mean, at the time of this recording, I am still a member, but with regards to the spirituality, I have been completely disillusioned by it because what I will say is that from my experience, what Freemasonry is on paper, the spiritual unity that it kind of professes, it doesn't in any way deliver on that. You will not find that in Freemasonry. That is for sure. And so someone told me, look, another Mason just told me, look, just treat it as a social club. And that's what it is. If you're looking for a social club, that's what Freemasonry is. All the spiritual stuff, because on paper, it's the aspect of bringing people together of different faiths. Doesn't matter if you're like a street sweeper or a king, you're supposed to be on the level, equal. Doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, doesn't matter, but it doesn't work like that in practice. And that is the problem. And as you said, that's why it's defunct. The membership is declining fast. They've just kicked open the doors, allowing anyone in, they're desperate for members. Then you get those kind of unsavory elements and agents that you've described. And I've seen that myself, so, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yes. Well, practically, you're just paying for friends anyway, because even if it is a social club, you're paying for friends. And they all disappear as soon as you resign, even in good standing. They stop messaging you. They stop liking your social media posts. It's like they were never there.
Have you found
with Masonic knowledge, they stole everything from Sufism and Islam anyway. So of course, the white man, number one, will never give you credit, and they will never give credit to where they took their knowledge from.
And that's actually a useful segue into our next topic, which is Sufism. Because would you describe yourself as a Sufi mystic? That's sort of how I see, Is that a fair assessment? Is that a fair label?
Yes, alhamdulillah. A Sufi is one who is longing to be one with Allah, his beloved, his or her beloved, God Almighty. We care nothing for the world. We try our best to be charitable, feed the homeless,
Mm-hmm.
stay in meditation, stay in prayer, do not chase after materialism, and just try to do our best to purify ourselves, like the
Mm-hmm.
purification of self, your heart, taskiya ul nafs in Arabic, which means purification of self,
Mm-hmm.
the path of tasawwuf, to be purified in your body, your mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
Because right now we're in our fallen state of humanity. We're all like animals.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to purify ourselves and become one with Allah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I saw everyone, with love, with innocence.
Mm-hmm.
And if you follow that path of being in love with self and each other and that innocence of a child,
Mm-hmm.
you will always be loved, protected, and provided for in your life. And I think that's a blessing that Allah, got me away from Freemasonry in
Mm-hmm.
good standing before the ruffians of the temple could give me the label, oh, he's suspended, he's
Yeah.
expelled.
Mm-hmm.
They could not tarnish my honor, and I walked away honorably. So
Yes, yes, I remember.
being a Sufi mystic,
Mm-hmm.
it's about being one with God, and God will make sure that you're always loved, protected, and provided for.
And I think that's the is that the essence of what, for anyone who doesn't know, in fact, for anyone who's listening to this and doesn't 100% know what Sufism is, can you sort of describe what you see Sufism is in like one sentence or a couple of sentences?
Yeah. Sufism is the purification of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and to basically get rid of all of your bad habits. Be a charitable person who's
Mm-hmm.
helping self, the homeless. Be connected to God. Be in purification. Be in prayer. So Sufi is the one who is always connected to Allah, like you are the friend of Allah. To be a wali of Allah,
Yeah.
waliullah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the goal of each Sufi, is to become the friend of Allah while he's
Mm-hmm.
here on earth.
And how does Sufism work in terms of membership? So you're a member of a Sufi order, is that correct? The can you talk, what is a Sufi order?
So in Sufism, you have like different tariqas,
Mm-hmm.
and these different tariqas or ways are all different lineages, which all go back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be
Yeah.
upon him,
Mm-hmm.
because the Prophet Muhammad had instructed the people of the bench, and
Mm-hmm.
those were the Sufis of the time. He had instructed them into the inner mysteries of Islam.
Yeah.
So it's like in the Bible when Jesus in the book of Mark
Mm-hmm.
tells a few of the disciples that there will be those that I will teach in parables who will be taught the external Christianity,
Yeah.
and he was teaching them the inner Christianity, like the inner
Mm-hmm.
gnosis and inner Gnosticism. So the people of the bench are similar to that scenario,
Mm-hmm.
and the Prophet, peace be upon him, had personally instructed all of them into the inner mysteries of Islam,
Mm-hmm.
because the external Islam is okay. You're seeing the five pillars of Islam. You see the person reading the Quran, going to the masjid, doing the five prayers. But
Yeah.
there's an ocean of Islam which is called tariqa.
Mm-hmm.
So first is Sharia, where you need to do your five prayers, follow your basic Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that vehicle or that boat, then you can go into the ocean of tariqa, and
Mm-hmm.
that ocean will help you delve deeper into the gnosis of self, Allah, purpose of life. What am I here for?
Mm-hmm.
What is the human being? What is the a purpose of purification of self, taskiya ul nafs, purification of the heart, being charitable, just doing the good things. And yeah, that's what it's all about. And you have different lineages,
Mm-hmm.
like you have Naqshbandi, you have Chishti, you have Qadariya,
Mm-hmm.
you have all of these different lineages that all go back to either the Prophet, peace be
Mm-hmm.
upon him,
Yeah.
or to Imam Ali alayhi salam.
And you have a Sufi, so the Sufi order that you're a part of, I believe it's called the Noor FSO. So it's the order you're part of is called the Noor FSO, and
Uh-huh.
it has a leader who is, I'm assuming, is your almost like a Sufi master or teacher for you. Can you just a few words about the Noor FSO and your Sheikh or your spiritual master? Could you just talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, sure. So my Sufi lineage originally comes from Pakistan.
Uh-huh.
So in Pakistan, I'm connected to the Qadiriya Sufi order, which
Mm-hmm.
is connected to Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. I'm also part of the Naqshbandi from Pakistan. Keep in mind that the Naqshbandis from the Arabic world and the Southeast Asian world are
Hmm.
like totally different.
Right,
So
right.
I'm connected to the Naqshbandi of Pakistan, of Qadiriya, and I'm also connected with the Nur Fatimiya Sufi order with Sheikh Wahid
Hmm.
Azal. And Sheikh Wahid Azal is basically, he's a great, wonderful man and teacher from Australia.
Hmm.
And he's been on this path of gnosis for a
Yeah.
long time to teach people the reality
Hmm.
of just finding that oneness of light within you,
Hmm.
finding that inner light within you. Because it's just like what Rumi says, you have to listen to that voice inside that does
Hmm.
not speak. And one of the commandments of the Fatimiya Sufi order, specifically number 3,
Yeah.
it tells you to basically find that inner light within you, to
Hmm.
find that within you, and just do the best with the time that you've been given. And that's what the Sheikh has always taught me, taught
Hmm.
others. Always question everything around you. Be a knower, be a seeker, be a doer.
Hmm.
And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that, and to be a representative of the Sheikh in the United States and Canada. And we're just doing good work together, and I'm grateful for that.
That's right. I mean, first of all, Wahid Azal, I've seen some of your interviews with him and some of his videos. Very intelligent, super well spoken. Just
Uh-huh.
he's just, and for anyone, you can put the link below to his channel, and people can see his videos. He's very, his English is basically at professor level. I mean, he's just, and he speaks Arabic and Persian, and
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
very interesting. Yeah. It's just for people who don't really speak Arabic or don't know anything about Islam, he is quite accessible in that way, isn't he?
Yes, that's right. See, Sheikh Wahid Azal is a
Hmm.
religious scholar and commentator. He's
Hmm.
known for his work on Islamic mysticism,
Uh,
esotericism, and
hmm.
particularly his involvement in the Bayani faith, which is Azali Babism or
Yeah.
Bayanism.
Hmm.
The Bayani faith originates from Babism, which was established by the Bab in mid 19th century Persia, now
Hmm.
Iran, as a precursor to the Baha'i faith. Sheikh Wahid Azal has been a vocal critic of the Baha'i faith and has written extensively on religious, mystical, and esoteric topics,
Hmm.
focusing on the teachings of the Bab and continuing the Bayani tradition. And his work includes discussions on the historical and theological aspects of Babism and Sufism and the Shia esoteric, basically Sufism. I mean, he's going to uncharted territories
He
where a
really
lot of these other
is.
guys refuse.
Yeah, I mean, he really is. And first of all, just for anyone listening, I'm not part of the order, but I mean, I've seen him talk about things like ayahuasca, which is like what do you call it? It's like a what do you call it? What is ayahuasca? It's sort of like a hallucinogenic I think that it originated in South America. I don't know.
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of it, the original one comes from a place in Iran,
Right.
and that is the original plant. See, if you really go into context,
Mm.
the Nur Fatimiya Sufi order is a spiritual and esoteric path of life,
Yeah.
which specifically comes from Islamic mysticism, which is Sufism,
Hmm.
and teachings that are attributed to the lineage and legacy of Fatima al-Zahra
Yeah.
and her husband,
Hmm.
Ali ibn Talib, Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Hmm.
Fatima and Ali are central figures not only in the Nur FSO, but Shia Islam.
Yeah.
So the Nur Fatimiyya Sufi order places a strong devotion towards these figures,
Hmm.
and it incorporates like practices, rituals, and teachings that are meant to help followers achieve a deeper connection with God
Yeah.
through the intercession and example of Fatima and Ali, which is meditation, doing dhikr, spiritual practices.
Hmm.
And like many Sufi orders, the Nur FSO aims to cultivate love, compassion, and a deep connection to Allah or the
Hmm.
supreme Godhead. So it's just about finding that inner teaching
Hmm.
within you. That's what the Sheikh is teaching. And he's always questioning and fighting against Western white supremacy and their
Yeah.
ivory towers.
And that's actually what we're going to talk about next. Is spiritual warfare, because it's something you and I speak. I mean, this is something you and I speak about a lot, behind the scenes in private, spiritual warfare. And I think it's such a misunderstood and unappreciated part of spirituality, and an important part, I think. So just in general, what are your thoughts about this term spiritual warfare? What does that mean to you?
Yes, sir. So spiritual warfare is basically this eternal fight
Hmm.
against the forces of light and the darkness. And we're just in this this human life is a test. We
Hmm.
get put into this human life, and we have been given the free will by God. But the ultimate test is that you surrender your free will to the
Hmm.
divine will and let the divine flow through you.
Hmm.
And when that happens, of course, the forces of darkness, they want to take you away from God. They want to make you abandon humanity, abandon God. So then they're going to put tests and trials in your life, which will be bad situations, bad person, places, and things. When you start getting into good habits, start fixing yourself up, people who never reached out to you, let's say 15 years ago from high
Yeah.
school, will start reaching out to you.
Hmm.
Hey, Al, let's go do this. Let's go smoke. Let's go to the club.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to sever your connection with God.
Yeah.
So the forces of darkness,
Hmm.
they can use anyone or anything against you. When you're on that path of connecting with God and they know that you're a good spirit, a good
Hmm.
soul, an old soul, a lot of these people know who you are before even you know who you are. So I
Interesting. Interesting.
I
Yeah.
I have people tell me that hey, you were a spiritual figure or a religious leader in a
Oh, like
past
past
life.
lives. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
So
I see. Yeah.
so they tell me that, and
Uh,
then they tell me, oh, that's why they always kept an eye on you, even when you were a child.
right.
They were
Right.
always watching you, following you,
Hmm.
trying to get you in trouble, trying to use
Hmm.
situations and things against you. So you just need to have discernment when you're dealing with spiritual warfare,
Hmm.
especially in the Western world. If you're a person of color, like a
Hmm.
non-white individual, white supremacy is going to be a big tool of that spiritual warfare that will be used against you. So let's say me as a Pakistani was working in a place where there was a lot of white people.
Hmm.
They're going to do everything like sneaky behavior that they're known for to try to get me in some kind of trouble.
Hmm.
Oh, I said something to the girl, or I did this, or I did that. So I've dealt with situations like that. That is a
Hmm.
part of spiritual warfare. You just
You're
got to
right.
be
Yeah.
alert. You got to be alert, and you got to have discernment.
I agree with you. And I think that obviously you and I talk about the current situation in quote unquote Israel a lot, and I think what people don't get, I think what's lacking in spirituality is, yeah, you need to understand that that right now in Palestine, there's a Palestinian child, right, crying out of abject horror, experiencing that child's experiencing the pain at the hands of quote unquote Israel. That's
Yes.
experiencing the pain of 100 adult males, and doesn't that child has no tools to cope with that, doesn't understand, why is this happening to me? So, and it's I think if that's not part of your spirituality, if that child's tears are not part of your spirituality, then I think you need to reassess your spirituality, because there's something really missing there. And it reminds me of a quote in the Quran, and I'm paraphrasing. It's in chapter, I think it's chapter 4, verse 75. Um, I can't remember exactly, but paraphrasing again, God says, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you that you don't fight in God's cause for the oppressed man, for the oppressed woman, and specifically God mentions for the oppressed children? What is wrong with you? This is the divine speaking, so it's not enough anymore to say, "Oh, well, I'm a spiritual person. I'm just going to spend my time praying and meditating." There is a war
Oh
being
yeah,
waged
yeah.
against you.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. See, a lot of a lot of these white people that have these love and light and spirituality
Hmm.
groups, they're all full of shit. Excuse my
No,
language.
no, it's
Because
uncensored.
number one, you're not gonna find a
Hmm.
non-white person in their groups. Like a lot of
Yeah.
these people that are having spiritual seminars and spiritual
Hmm.
speaking engagements,
Yeah.
majority of the time you're not even gonna find a person
Hmm.
of color within the speaking panel because
Right.
they want to hold on to that knowledge like they're superior,
Yeah.
and they want to discredit others by hiding their history,
Yeah.
revising their history,
Hmm.
stealing stuff from Islam and Sufism, and
Hmm.
then claiming that, oh, Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism are two separate things.
You're right. Yeah.
Even Christian Rosencrantz went to North Africa and
Hmm.
the Middle East, got initiated by the Sufis, and took that
Hmm.
knowledge back to Europe, just like what the Knights Templar did with Freemasonry.
You're
So,
right.
see,
Yeah.
the white man doesn't want to give the East any credit.
Mm.
So, That's exactly it. Anyone that's claiming love and light and not speaking about the Palestine situation,
If you're
they're the
not, look, if
enemy.
sorry to interrupt, but if you're not speaking about, that, I mean, I sometimes I have to hold back my tears when I'm thinking about genuinely about the breakdown, when I'm thinking about especially the children there, if that's not part of your spirituality, you will be questioned for every single tear shed in the afterlife, and you do not want that, you don't want that burden. So, just we'll move on to the next topic, but I think you need to do something if you want to be with the divine, you need to act in accordance, I think. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll lighten things up because that's necessarily a heavy topic and we had to talk about it. So I want you to tell me what's the picture on the left? I stole this
So
from
the
your
picture,
Facebook, by the way. Yeah, but tell me on your left.
yeah, the picture on the left is Uncle Sal giving bread to his birds. And
Mm.
this is bread which is made from ingredients which are healthy and not harmful to the birds. I had this guy commenting on my
I
Facebook
saw
page,
that.
"Oh,
I saw
yeah,
that.
this is not good for the birds." And he
Yeah.
he was just another white Mason, a white American
Mm,
Mason full of shit,
mm.
who I ended up deleting from my Facebook anyway.
Fair
So
play.
yeah, yeah. So this ingredients right here,
Hmm.
they're healthy for the birds. They're made with ingredients specifically from Pakistan and India.
Hmm.
It's like having Gatorade Zero, right, without the sugar, but you can still enjoy the Gatorade.
Excellent. The birds in the
So
park must love Big Uncle Sal. By the
yes,
way,
they do love their Uncle Sal. And on the right,
yeah.
I'm having my mandatory ice cream.
Hmm.
And I tell people that I can eat ice cream and get away with it and still maintain a healthy body figure by exercising.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Salman goes by Uncle Sal to his friends, and I call him Big Uncle Sal because he's built like an army tank, physically, mentally, spiritually, and from all the pull-ups that you do, isn't that right?
Yes,
Pull-up.
yes, you have to, because a part of being a Muslim or a
Uh,
believer or a spiritual person, spiritual warrior,
yeah,
Allah tells you, be a good person, but at the same time, do not be afraid to pick up your sword.
yep,
So you
yep,
must you must
mm,
always be physically able
yeah,
to defend yourself and your
yeah,
family if it comes down to it. Like, I'm
yep,
the nicest person you will ever meet in your life.
mm,
I would not even hurt a fly. But if it comes to the honor of myself,
mm,
defense of myself and my family
mm.
or friends, I'm gonna take your head off before you even realize it.
I think that's a good ending to this. I think there's my Zoom only has like 1 minute left. So, any final words, Uncle Sal, before this Zoom call ends?
Oh, thank you, my brother. I wish there were more people in the world like you who have the empathy to understand. And if there were more people like you, our world would be a better place. I thank you for your brotherhood and time and always being by my side. And I know God, Allah, will always make sure you're loved, protected, and provided for in this life and the next.
Thank
Until
you.
next time.
That means a lot. Thank you for saying that. And until next time, and for anyone listening, thank you and goodbye.